very much, everyone, for joining us this morning for this Mayday. What is all the fuss about webinar? Absolutely thrilled that you've taken out the time out of your day to join us today. So my name is David Tuck. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Mayday, and really thrilled to be able to be joined by MJ and Harriet, two of our fantastic customers and users this morning, to get an understanding of how they use Mayday and how it's helped them as businesses. So the plan for this morning, I'm going to hand over to MJ and Harriet very shortly to do very brief kind of intros about themselves. I'm then going to do an extremely brief whistle-stop tour just to set the scene of the Mayday product suite. And then we'll get into the kind of the rump of what all the fuss is about and how MJ and Harriet have used Mayday. So without further ado, MJ, over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name's MJ. I might tell from my accent that I'm Australian, but live now in Stockholm, actually. I work for OG Global. We are one of the largest owners and operators of a multi-brand fitness franchise. We have locations, I think we've got about 40 locations now, 45 locations across Australia, the United Kingdom, the US, and Canada. My role is, as well as the managing director of the UK operations, I also take an overall CFO role for OG Global, which includes doing wonderful things like global consolidation of our entities. That's it for me.
MJ, amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you again for joining this morning. Harriet, over to you.
Great, thanks, David. So my name is Harriet. I'm financial controller at a post-Series A experts network called Arbolus. So we're kind of all about kind of taking the experts network and knowledge sharing industry, kind of modernizing it slightly with much more tech-enabled products and offerings. My background is PwC, Big Four trained, but then realized that my passion was definitely in the startup world. So I've kind of since then worked with startups, scale-ups of various sizes, and now landed at Arbolus. So I'm based in Barcelona at the moment. We've got 4 global entities, about 150 people worldwide. So nowhere near in the realm of what MJ is dealing with, but perfect use case for Mayday, I think.
And it's amazing, and we're so grateful to have both of you join this morning, because you really represent both of the sort of the classic segments that we see make the most out of Mayday. Harriet, in Arbolus's case, where you've expanded internationally and you've got one entity in each of the territories, and then MJ from an OG perspective, the sort of physical location businesses where you've got one business entity per location. So fantastic to have both of you joining this morning. Just a bit of admin. So there'll be plenty of time for questions at the end, but please do fire them through in the chat as we go, and I'll pick them up and ask them of MJ and Harriet, or answer them myself where relevant. It looks like we've had an early question come through in the chat so far. So someone's asked what what is that on top of your Arsenal shirt over my shoulder, which is an eagle-eyed spot, and that's actually, it's a little bit awkward. So that is actually our Xero Emerging App Partner of the Year award, which we were thrilled to win last week. So it wasn't a great night for Arsenal last night, in kind of losing to Manchester City in the Premier League, but thankfully it was a great result for us at Mayday last Wednesday night to scoop Xero's Emerging App Partner of the Year awards. And that, that gives a great backdrop to us and what is all the fuss about. And let me dive straight into our 3 products, give you the whistle-stop tour of that, and then we can hand over to Harriet and MJ. So we've got the 3 products for your multi-entity needs. Mayday Recharger, where you have intercompany charges that you need to recharge across the group. Bragg, bank reconciliation across the group, where you've got one entity that has a bank transaction for example, they paid a bill on behalf of another related entity, and Mayday Balancer, which has just gone live and will be launched fully in the coming weeks for keeping your intercompany loan accounts in balance. So let me just dive out of these and give you the very brief run through of the products. So Mayday Recharger, where you've got costs or revenues that you need to recharge across the group, create rules to point them at the relevant costs or revenues using any of these conditions that the transactions will have in Xero, and then tell the rule how those costs or revenues should be recharged between different entities within the group. And now, rather than having to manually identify, calculate, and post your recharges each month, you've now got your rules. Each month you get this, all of your different transactions from Xero, the relevant recharge rule applied. And now all you need to do is check that you're happy with how all of the different transactions are being treated, override any outliers, and then one-click post back into Xero. So what was that huge manual time-consuming process, a review, report by exception, and one-click post back. Brag, where you've got those bank transactions in one related entity that relate to, in this case, a bill of another related entity. You all know that pain of having to switch between your Xero files, finding the relevant bill, marking it off as paid to the intercompany, then coming back into the entity that's made the payment, remembering what that bill was for so that you can enter the right narrative. You've now, within the Xero bank rec that you know and love, got the Mayday tab to be able to match bank transactions in one of your related entity to bills or invoices, where it's a received money transaction of your other related entities, and one click approve them. And because you've done the intercompany loan account mappings in Mayday as a product, takes care of all of the loan account postings as well. Balancer. So we've all lived that pain of when we come to consolidate, be it year end, be it on a funding event. Invariably, it's at the worst time, and our intercompany loan accounts don't consolidate out. 3 reasons why that can happen: original posting asymmetry between the two entities. So now with Mayday Balancer, you've got this incredible insurance policy, this safety net, that your loan accounts will never again fall out of balance, because we are looking side by side to check that the postings have been made symmetrically and flagging to you where they haven't. You might have FX on those loan balances. So now, just as easily as posting your depreciation journal, you'll have the ability to post those FX adjustments to ensure that they are never a source of your loan accounts falling out of balance. And then finally, the ability to set the interest rate that should apply to the loan and one-click post those interest adjustments each month. So the 3 reasons that loan accounts can fall out of balance: posting asymmetry, FX adjustment, and interest. You've now got the peace of mind that you will be able to address all of those with Mayday, and never again will your intercompany loan accounts fall out of balance. All right, that is quite enough of me talking. And now let's hand over to MJ and Harriet. So first off, we'd just love to understand, how did you used to kind of address your kind of multi-entity needs as part of your kind of month-end process, and how much time, how much pain did it used to cause?
If I start? Okay, cool. So if I start with our intercompany recharges, intercompany invoicing, before we used Mayday, it essentially was kind of a big copying and pasting exercise between the two entities, because we used to like having, obviously all the bills split out into like relevant line items for what we were recharging. So it probably used to take kind of half a day to do those, and then because we in the past would recharge everything plus a markup, then if we had to make P&L adjustments post doing these invoices, so then have to go back in, correct that in both sides, and then we've got 3 subsidiaries, so it'd be quite onerous to like keep putting through these adjustments. So I think there's two things now. So previously that probably would have taken about half a day initially to do all the initial invoices, and then plus any of the time taken to make adjustments if there was changes in the subsidiaries. And then now, beauty of Mayday, it's all kind of flowed in, automated, synced up. Like David said, like it's just one click to post everything, and then if there's changes subsequently, again, it's super quick to like repeat that process and make the adjustments. So it's kind of two things. There's like the time saving and then also the accuracy, because if you think in the past it was such a task to update everything if we needed to make an adjustment, if we found a mistake, that sometimes you would say like, oh, it's not worth even doing it this month, we'll just push it to next month, things like that. So there was always like a big knock-on effect. So that's been great. We've been up and running with Recharger for a while now. Yeah, just kind of means that that's all done and dusted. Don't even have to worry about leaving the time allowance for doing intercompany. And then just getting set up on Balancer, which is very exciting, because up till now, again, have just been managing the intercompany recs out of a spreadsheet, and like, again, like with the FX adjustments, for example, sometimes you just let them build up and then write it off, like, I don't know, once a quarter or once a year or something. But now, once we're all set up, it'll be lovely just to be able to post those every month, and then also start thinking a bit more sophisticatedly about interest and things, which up till now we haven't, because we have very fluctuating loan accounts. So yeah, to kind of work out an interest on those has just not been kind of our priority. So again, time saving and accuracy expected on that as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Harriet. MJ, microphone over to you.
Yeah, well, so for us, before Mayday, to put in context, we got 35, 40 sites with a number of different employment entities along with that as well. So actually, we're looking after 40, 50 different Xero files that we're looking at. There was two ways that was dealt with previously. One is that we had decentralized spending and transactions, which caused a lot of problems for us. From our end, is that, well, okay, if we don't have to go and try and repost transactions at the end of the month, let's just get each individual site with their own credit card to do their own purchasing for what they need to do. And this caused a lot of issues from, decentralized procurement side of things, not having, tight audit controls on who's buying and auditing process and what's happening. So spend kind of got difficult to manage, or difficult to forecast as well, because you don't know who's doing things, and the ability for some potential fraud and all that sort of stuff too. So one part of it is we weren't doing recharges by decentralizing everything. On the second part of it, for some of the things that were centralized, for example, large service contracts, it would be a manual reconciliation at the end of the month in Excel or however you want to do it, and then posting manual journals in each of the subsequent entities. We've previously had specific Excel add-in tools that were built specifically for us to allow to post to multiple entities at once. However, it's still Excel based, so it was very prone to errors and also quite static. The fact that you do it once in a month, if there is a mistake or whatever, it takes time to go back and make the adjustment. The other approach that we would have done in the past is that usually when a company gets to our level of complexity and size, is that they move to an enterprise software system, which Xero is a very small business, but we love Xero because of all its functionality and the ease of use, but really, for our size. But we've been putting that off because we don't want to make that investment. We don't want the additional complexity. And Mayday has changed that a lot for us. I will also say that, bank reconciliation across group, companies ended up paying for other companies' invoices, which is a pet hate of mine. That is the biggest nightmare ever. And that just took time. So in the past, we're essentially putting accounts out 3-4 weeks after close, and talk about how that's changed in the future, in the present time now.
Amazing. I mean, there's such rich points to kind of dive into there, because I think it's very easy to get fixated on us with the headline benefits of the time saving. There's huge time saving. Kind of do your recharges in 98% less time than it did previously. But I think there's some additional points that come out there that are just incredible around, like Harriet, you talked about the accuracy benefit as well. Perhaps if you could just like elaborate on that, because I think that's one that can often be missed as a benefit of using us.
Yeah. Well, I guess, well, anybody that's worked kind of in a startup or scale up, you know that you have limited resources and limited time, and you really have to pick your battles when it comes to like accounting. Obviously, within reason, we all want everything to be very accurate, but there is like a kind of risk time kind of considerations when you're doing these things. So yeah, like I said before, obviously like copying and pasting, or even if you're like doing invoice upload files, it's never, it takes a long time, it's never going to be super accurate. When things are changing, like it will put you off, like changing small things or small enough things, if you notice kind of errors, especially like quite immaterial errors. So for us, it also plays, so we're not audited at the moment, so it's now it's something that's like in our mind that we need to like be getting in that mindset. We need to have greater accuracy, we need to be reconciling balance sheets, we need to be not so much like getting everything down to the penny, but like at least making sure we've got those controls in place. And like doing like with things like this, it just really gives us the peace of mind that like compliance wise, like we're not potentially leaving gaps. And like even with the like with Balancer, like one of the things that is very tempting to do when you come to a consolidation it doesn't balance is just think, oh no, I'm just going to put a number somewhere to make it balance, and then which is fine, like to a point, but knowing that now we've got like the tools that we can be confident in our consolidations and confident in our numbers without having to put like plugs in or anything, is just really good, and like it's just kind of sets us up for scalability and potential audits or due diligences or anything like that.
Fascinating, and thank you so much for sharing that. And MJ, there was a later point that I wanted to pick up on that you shared around how, it sounds like having the ability to use Mayday has enabled you to centralize things that you were previously having to decentralize, which meant it was difficult to manage spend. It was difficult to forecast. So having the ability to use Mayday has enabled you to do things in a way that wouldn't have otherwise been possible.
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. So to dive into it, so we've got, different locations around there, each with their own manager, and we've got people there that have the ability to, if you think about our kind of main sort of expense items, rent for our locations, staffing costs for our staffing, and then electricity, cleaning, all those other bits and pieces. So in the manager would be responsible for procurement of some of the non-contracted items like rental, and so cleaning and other things, and difficult to control from an approval perspective, from ensuring that good procurement methods are being used, and actually what happened on top of that as well is because all these different entities are purchasing, there's the number of transactions that would go through each sub-entity's bank account each month was much higher, and you'd have a lot of different our load of bookkeeping at the end of the month, or during the month even, to reconcile all of these was much higher too. So having the ability to say, okay, well, let's group purchase cleaning items, and for example, in the UK, what we do now is we group purchase through Amazon, and have one bill sent to the holding company, and we know where all the items are going. They're either getting split across all the entities, or they're getting delivered to one entity, and we can just run that with our codes. At the end of the month, recharge those costs. But we've managed to get a reduction in our bookkeeping resource as a result. So I've got less people needed to actually get across booking transactions. we've had a increase in volume discounts that we've been able to achieve on certain stuff, which is actually reducing our spend. And then, much more centralized approval mechanisms as well. So for now, a lot of the spend comes directly through me. I get one email a day say, yes, you can buy that. No, you can't. No. And so our spend's gone down significantly too. So it's not only saved us time from getting accounts out there and having accurate accounts, but also saved us costs and resources that we need to do, and also also saved us costs and the amount that we spend too, in particular.
Amazing. That's so interesting. Yeah. Like, I'm learning a bunch from this this webinar, because we have our hypotheses which get validated of the sort of direct benefits we bring, but it can be really easy to miss those second order benefits.
Yeah. One other thing that we've done as well, is we've for each of the sub locations as well, each of our locations, we used to have all the billings that we made in those entities drop into those accounts for those entities too. So we had decentralized revenue reconciliation, where the revenue went to. We've now completely changed all our billings with Stripe. It does most of our transactions to actually redirect all of them into a single bank account at the holding level, which has actually allowed us to start putting money on call. And now that interest rates are ticking up a little bit, we can do that. We can actually earn a little bit of interest on our money, which previously, if you've got 40 different accounts, would have to, and it's actually been difficult to get put in place, account sweeps and all those sort of things to bring the money to the top. Particularly if you're running in Xero, where you have to manage intercompany transactions all the way through. This has been great. We've had it all drop into one, and then at the end of the month, we recharge all the revenue transactions as well, based on a single journal. So that's actually been great for us too. So it's made us more money through. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing that. That's been fascinating. And Harriet, there was a point I was keen to pick up from what you were saying around sort of interest on intercompany loans, and I know we've had plenty of kind of sort of conversations about this in the past, all of it within the ambit of your sort of TP policy as a business. But would I be right in saying, particularly with Balancer coming through and that easy ability to charge interest, it sort of unlocked the capacity, or perhaps reduced the dauntingness of being able to make the step change there in terms of what you do from a TP, a transfer pricing best practice?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess taking a step back in general, transfer pricing has been something that, because our group structure is essentially all the contracts with the topco, and then all the subsidiaries are essentially just operational offices, so staff costs, rent, etc. In the past we've kind of just taken, well, based on guidance that we've had, we haven't just made these things up, but we've just kind of recharged everything plus a markup, and then obviously with Mayday now we can kind of have a more we have the capacity to have a more kind of complex TP kind of matrix with not necessarily everything needs to get recharged, which is good. And then also, the interest point, it's not something we've chosen to do before, just because we don't have a set loan amount that the entities have. They essentially send us a bill, the intercompany bill, and then we send them the required funding every month, because they have zero revenue generation, and then that means the accounts are constantly kind of going up and down between invoice sent at the end of the month to funding sent at the start of the next month back. Practically calculating interest on a day-to-day basis on those, maybe not day-to-day, but they are constantly, they're moving at least kind of several times a month, these accounts. Excited to kind of get that improved accounting policy in place in terms of charging that interest.
Fascinating. And the final point, which MJ talked about, the sort of move to ERP, and Harriet, I remember we've spoken about this a number of times, because you have an amazing kind of range of experience with Quantico, small businesses who might not have been into sort of full month end yet, Arbolus, kind of in the middle there, in what I remember you kind of brilliantly describing as like the growing pains stage in terms of finance function, and then at peak on working with correct me if I'm wrong, that was NetSuite there.
Yeah.
You know, as a kind of big ERP, and this idea of how, you know, Mayday is potentially open-ended for some businesses, but if not, then definitely kind of extending it for a good period of time, that growing pain stage, so that businesses can successfully grow with Xero. You know, I'd love to kind of dive into that, because it's been relevant conversations with both of you. Like, how do you, I guess, you know, how do you think about that move, and what's the impact of Mayday in that regard?
I mean, as MJ said, like, I guess there's two big costs to moving to an ERP, like the financial cost, which is very significant, like, and the time cost, obviously, to implement, etc. And I guess like a third, stress cost or whatever. Like, I've been in places where they've done implementations, and like even with a paid implementation team for NetSuite, for example, it's still kind of hectic and horrible, and like checking data integrity is just a nightmare, and like it just doesn't sound super fun. And then I guess, well, I think Arbolus, like, I think people moved to NetSuite when they were maybe 20 million, 25 ARR, which we are not at the moment. But and then I guess another, maybe this is an advantage of Arbolus, is that like our kind of business model and like our revenue structure, etc., is not too complicated, and I'm fairly comfortable with managing a lot of that through Xero going forward. I think the pieces that Xero is missing, obviously, other than intercompany, are things like automated recurring journals, because things like those waterfalls are very take a long time to set up, but I feel that may be on the roadmap for a certain product. But yeah, I think for me, like, Xero is super intuitive. NetSuite also like isn't, and these big RPs, they're not easy to use because they are so powerful. And like with the like limited resources, I love having like more junior people on the team and training them up, like grads and interns, and it's great. Like, we'd love to just stay on a product that they can like hit the ground running and like get used to really quickly. So yeah, not also like Jane, not keen to be moving to and a proper big ERP anytime soon.
Yeah, just MJ, anything to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, obviously no one wants to go through that pain of an ERP implementation. It's costly and painful. But so you don't want to do that. So we're trying to extend as much as we can, and we'll probably continue to use Xero for as long as we can. And I think, as well, as if you've got some smart people in your team who can, you know, do different things. For example, like what we do is we have you know, our own databases which collect all our revenue transactions and drop them into a report, which is perfect for a one journal upload into Xero with all the correct tracking categories and everything like that, which can do kind of like enterprise level stuff pretty well, you know, and the more and more technology involves, it makes it easier to do that, I think. The other thing I'll say as well, that, you know, some of the good things that large ERP systems do is, you know, help with small repetitive tasks quite a lot. And I think with Xero, you could end up doing a lot of small repetitive tasks. For example, switching between entities. And if I'm looking at like account transactions for one entity, and then I say, oh, well, what happened to the other entity? You know, I have to like, you know, go up, switch, and navigate back to account transactions, and so it takes me about 10 clicks to get there. And you know, one of my early kind of feedbacks to you guys at Mayday was just like saying, okay, well, when we're running recharges for 35 companies, you end up doing a lot of clicks on some bits and pieces, and sometimes you're looking to batch things up, you know, to say that, okay, well, for example, on Recharger, when I'm putting in my transaction description for my recharge journal or recharge invoice, well, I'm saying that pretty much the same stuff for every single journal. And I'm doing like 60 of these journals, right? So why should I need to rewrite or copy and paste, right? I should be able to just put it once and for it to be able to feed through. But, you know, if you've only got 3 entities, it doesn't matter, right? Because it's, you know, it's copy and paste is like that. It's quick and easy. So I think that those, you know, there's some improvements there that, you know, large EMP systems, you know, because they're thinking on that level already, already do. But, you know, I think from my discussions with you, David and Griff, like absolutely, we're kind of getting to that point anyway. I already see some improvements, a lot of improvements in the system. And so, yeah, absolutely want to keep using Xero for its ease of use for as long as possible. And happy to build an infrastructure around it now.
Amazing. Well, I'm really conscious of time, so apologies. There's a few questions about the product, like where currency conversion comes from, and the sort of setup process that I will get back to via email. But I'm really conscious of time. And Harriet, MJ, thank you so much for your ongoing support of us. It's been, you know, incredible to be incredible to work with you as customers, for taking the time to share your insights today. It's been incredible. Like I've learned a ton about the kind of additional benefits that we provide. So, you know, I've learned about why there is fuss today, which is great, but it sounds like, yeah, there's even more scope across, you know, MJ, your point at the end about what we can do with the existing multi-entity products, and Harriet, to your point around like recurring journals and as we move broader into the month-end process with things like revenue recognition that also affect single entity businesses, which we're really excited to this quarter with revenue recognition being the first element of that. So good reason for fuss today, and lots more scope for us to generate more fuss over the coming months and years, which is, yeah, really all we can ask for as a company and team. So thank you so much to MJ and Harriet for joining us today. Thank you to everyone who's joined and is watching this online. Just to kind of wrap things up, there'll be follow-up emails that go out after this. So there's the ability to sign up for a free 30-day free trial, and we'll be in touch to offer you a concierge onboarding call to walk through how to get the most out of the product. If you prefer, you can book in a one-on-one demo with us, and then just to kind of share details, all of which will be in the email, about a really exciting promotion that we're running in line with being emerging app partner of the year, to benefit from 50% off in 2023 if you subscribe before the 31st of May. So all of that will be in the email, but that's nothing left for me to do but to say thank you again for taking the time today. Massive thank you to MJ and Harriet, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the day and a great upcoming month end and all month ends hence. Thank you very much.